It was more early season frustration for Plymouth Argyle on Saturday, falling to their third defeat in 3 games of this Sky Bet League One season, this time at the hands of Lincoln. Despite a late rally from Argyle, it was defeat once again, meaning that it is Argyle's worst start to a league season for 30 years, since the 1995-1996 season. On that occasion, we did win promotion via the playoffs, so it is still early days. This is Argyle Analysis, where we will be talking through that defeat at Lincoln, looking at some of the reasons why. But because it's such a tight turnaround in League One at the start of this season, we'll also be previewing Tuesday night's game at Home Park against Leyton Orient with the head coach Tom Cleverley as well. Well, joining me, as always, after a week off actually, last week, we are allowing him back, despite the amazing job that Mark Edworthy did. It is, of course, it's Aaron Cusack, who's back in the studio, refreshed after a relaxing few days at Disneyland Paris.
Indeed, Charlie. Welcome back. Straight to it. Out of the frying pan and into the fire. But here we go again.
Here we go again. Yeah. You've had the chance to look back on the game at the weekend, and ultimately, it's disappointing, isn't it, really, the start we've had to this season? Very.
There was lots of optimism going into the start, and it is early days, we know that, but I think everyone's just frustrated in the manner in which we're losing games. It's the calibre of the goals that we're conceding. If teams are opening them up and outplaying them, you can we said it before, you can accept it, but the way in which we're having to create goals compared to the way in which we're conceding goals doesn't seem to be on par at the minute. So the word frustrating, annoying seems to be reigning true currently.
It's 8 goals conceded in the 3 league games, 10 in the 4 games this season. And in each occasion, we've fallen behind and been behind at half-time, like what happened on Saturday as we look through the goals here.
Yeah, within 5 minutes, you're already chasing the game. And, we're going to take a deeper dive into the analysis of the goals in a moment. But you set your stall out all week. You've been thinking about this, that, the other, priming yourself against the players you're going to play against. And it was a really nice finish to go, unfortunately a goal behind. But it was the manner in which they conceded so quickly. They seem to be chasing games. And, just after half-time, they kind of got back into the game. And then within, unfortunately, Tegan Finn with a slight error just coming off the bench. And then the game's taken away from them, Charlie, within 5 minutes, So James Collins getting on the end of a knockdown from a save from Ashby Hammond. And, that was for me, a deflating moment because I thought they started the second half quite brightly. And I thought they ended the first half quite brightly as well. And then within, 2 or 3 minutes, a penalty conceded, Wiradoo handball, and then James Collins puts the game to bed. You're 3-0 down within, 56, 58 minutes, and it felt like, it could go on to become 4 and 5. But I thought they rallied really well. I thought Tegan Finn came on and did really well. He was bright, and Owen Hosseini getting his 3rd goal in 2 games. so his first league goal of the season. I thought he took it really well. I really like this play here. We'll talk about verticality a bit later, but the way in which they break the lines, I thought he rode the tackle well, brought it onto his favoured left side and was clinical. And, there were moments throughout the afternoon, Charlie, where Argyle were bright in possession. They played with conviction and they worked the ball well, and 2 minutes later, having got back to 3-1, Amici does this from a really acute angle. What a clinical finish that is. And you kind of felt that, is there an opportunity here that they might be able to rescue something? But unfortunately, they just ran out of time.
Yeah, and the grand scheme of the game, you'd probably say undeserved from the position they were in. Tom Cleverley said after the match, it's actually quite easy to then start wanting the ball and do things when you're 3-0 down because the pressure's sort of off. But even still, it just gave people something, I suppose, towards the end of the game. Do you think, considering what had gone before?
I think so. I mean, they rallied, didn't they? And everyone watching that game, obviously associated with Argyle, would have thought, there's a chance we might be able to get something here.
And I think people did. People suddenly were like, actually, first one goes in, you think, fine. Yeah. Second one so soon, you think, okay. You begin to think there was 10 minutes left of the game.
Absolutely. And I think moving forward, I appreciate we're in a bit of a predicament at the minute, but moving forward, there is hope there and belief that if we can just iron out those glaring errors that seem to be happening too often, there's quality there. And going forward, we'll be able to create chances. And I think that's what fans want to hold on to, the fact that we are capable of creating chances to win football matches. What they haven't got at the minute is a winning mentality because they've lost 3 out of 3. So hopefully, if that can be restricted as quickly as possible, then it will turn into 3 points.
Yeah, and the reason for that, it's kind of because of the goals in which they conceded, and we alluded to it. And let's have a look at, the way in which Lincoln got at Argyle.
Absolutely. Now, this is the first 2 minutes. So what we're going to do is take a deeper dive into the structural setup. So the first 2 minutes of the game, straight away, we've got Wiradou and Paulson, for me, too far over on one side of the pitch. So they need to be a little bit more central and Such tucking in so they've got better symmetry across the back line. So as the ball is played forward, that red zone there, that's the most vulnerable area because it's the central part of the pitch and it's the closest area to the goal. So Wiradou just needs to tuck this side ever so slightly so that he can protect that central area if the knockdown goes in favour of Lincoln. On this occasion, this is 2 minutes in, so Wiradou where he is, the ball is not headed into that area and it runs through to Ashby Hammond. So for me, that's a warning sign straight away. 3 minutes later, look where the ball is fairly central, but we're so far over to one side. So Paulson for me is the wrong shoulder. He needs to be on the opposite side of the shoulder. That will naturally force Wiradou to come towards the bottom of the screen and will pull Such in. So as the ball is now played out wide, Paulson here for me, Charlie, his body shape is facing inwards. It needs to be facing up the pitch. If he's facing inwards and he makes contact, it makes it very difficult for him to head forward high and wide. And as a result, we want him ideally to head it up and away, but his body shape is facing inwards. And as a result, that's going to drop into that area there. We've also got to look at the awareness of Ibrahim, Such and Wiradou. Had they been slightly more central towards the goal, you start to protect that red zone area. So as the ball is now played back into this area here, look at the vulnerability we have here now. Such is too far over. Ibrahim isn't too aware of where the goal scorer is. And as a result, it's a good finish. I'm taking nothing away from the finish, but it's just too vulnerable. And there was a bit of a pattern developing in the first half. So Lincoln clearly had a game plan, hit big diags. So when you play with a back four, what you can't afford to have is your fullbacks initiating the drop because you run the fear of playing everyone onside. So if we look at this balance here, Charlie, it's not in balance and it looks really unstable. And as a result, you've got defending scenarios where it looks a bit frantic and uncertain. And whilst they do clear their lines or clear the box, it's not in cohesion, and as a result it looks unsettling, and for me that would have really allowed Lincoln to get going. Now look at the scenario we've got here. So you've got a back fouler, Paulson's initiating a step here, but the other three aren't going with him, so as a result you are completely out of kilter. Now, if you're going to initiate a step, you should only really be initiating a step if you're going to gain territory collectively or there's pressure on the ball. But there's neither here. So Lincoln have got the ball. There is no threat on the ball whatsoever, no pressure. So as a result, you've got to prepare to drop. You cannot have your opposite fullback, in this case Sorinola, initiating the deeper drop because he plays everyone onside. So Poulsen just needs to be about 3 or 4 yards deeper so he can see the ball. He knows where the pressure is in front of him. He knows where there's space to protect. He doesn't on this occasion. Now the second phase is happening. The play has gone into the box. You need to get touch tight here. You cannot afford any room whatsoever. He slips, but I do feel he's a little bit too disconnected from that situation. And this seems to be a bit of a common theme. So look, we've got a wide angle shot. The ball is fairly central. There's no need to go so far across, I don't feel, because if they revert to more of a symmetrical line, you've got cover both left, right and centrally, and that enables you to have better balance, inviting you to react to the left or to the right or centrally if the ball goes into one of those 3 areas. But as the ball is now played over, again, I've already made reference to this point, just hold your ground. Just hold your line as a 4, and then it prevents you from having to readjust because you're not certain of what's going to happen. Again, Poulsen's a little bit too high. He's backpedaling, he loses the header and it falls into that vulnerable area, and they work it wide and Hackett gets a shot on the inside that Ashby Hammond has to save. So, you know, this is all happening in the first 30 minutes or so. So there's a deliberate theme now occurring. The game plan of Lincoln, kick it long. You know that they're going to try and get the knockdown. The knockdown there from Poulsen is straight into that vulnerable area, and they have a shot from distance and Ashby Hammond has to save it. So, you know, that's the homework that Cleverley and the coaches would have go away and look at, but there was a deliberate theme occurring, or a definite theme, I should say, occurring in that first half.